Well, hello everybody. Thanks for listening to Blue Collar Hockey Talk. I'm Scott Feeney. I'm with Wes Atkinson here. We're going to be talking about the ESPN deal with the NHL. We're going to be talking Toronto Maple Leafs like Frederik Andersen, Jack Campbell. We're going to be talking about how hard is it playing against Winnipeg. We're going to be going over some thoughts from West Coast Tim. Guys, if you like the video, share, like, subscribe, do whatever the hell you need to get the word out there. Let's talk a little bit. How you doing tonight, Wes?
I'm doing great, thanks, Scott. It's the seasons are changing here, and it's that springtime when you feel like playoff hockey is around, but it's hard to imagine like we're only halfway through the season now, but we're getting there nonetheless, and the Leafs are coming a bit down to earth here, so it's the games are meaning a little bit more than we thought they'd mean.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we're facing some hot goaltenders. We're playing against. We're going through a little bit of adversity ourselves, doing a little bit of character and gut check right now. But we'll get into that a little bit more, eh, man?
Yep, sounds good, man. I really want to talk about this deal the NHL reached this week. 7-year deal with ESPN worth over $2.8 billion. So they're going to get over like $400 million per season, man. How do you feel about the NHL going back to ESPN in the States?
I think that it's great. I think it's great for the game. I think that it's funny that the NHL still announces up to 4 years of a flat salary cap, but whatever. Long term, I think for the game, it's huge because the exposure is going to be big. ESPN hasn't had NHL on their mainstream or their mainstreams for 17, 18 years, I think
Yeah.
I saw. So, I mean, instead of them always playing, Division One highlights because that's what they're promoting, because that's what they play on their feeds, they're going to actually show highlights of the NHL. So there's going to be a huge amount of exposure of the NHL throughout the states, and this is exactly what Gary Bettman has wanted to do. This
Mm-hmm.
is what he needed to see happen, and I think it couldn't have come at a better time for hockey.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, man. It's great news and it's great for the exposure. And I go to the States every now and then. I'm flying around or whatever. And man, when you go into a sports bar in an airport or anything like that, the one channel that's always on is ESPN. It is rare that a bar in any state would have like NBC Sports on. It's just not their number one go-to. They have Sports Center on, they have ESPN on, they have the ESPN like 1, 2 channels on. I think it's great that more people will see it because when ESPN didn't have the games, they're not showing hockey. Hockey was just like on the ticker. It would fly by, man, and like no one would really see it unless you were looking for it.
Why do you think hockey was sitting behind auto racing? You know what I mean? Like forget about a big four. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were struggling to keep up as far as hockey is as a sport in the States.
Oh,
So this is huge. This is big. This is really, really big. And I think for long-term growth of the game, I think and for sustainability of the game, to see it keep going a in the right direction, I think it's great, man. I think it's
mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah, and like to put it really in perspective, they're in their final year of their 10-year deal with NBC, and NBC was paying them 200 million per season. So they're doubling what they're getting as of next year, which is like you said, it's great. It is absolutely great. Exposure is awesome, man. They have so many teams. They need people's support, man, in the states for all these hockey teams.
Yeah, that they do. So I don't know. Do you mind if we go right into a little bit of thoughts of West Coast Tim?
Let's do it, man.
All right, I'm going to read it out here. So West Coast Tim's thoughts. It's hard to get down on this losing skid. There's been some good play, and the season has been a grind. But I'd like to see Freddie stand a little taller. Since coming back from his injury, he hasn't been great, and I'm not blaming this on him. But I'd like to see him round back into form and steal some games. When Campbell returns, that's when things will get interesting. I like his game and his compete. It has me wondering what's going to happen this summer with Freddie and who becomes the number one. You want to weigh in first?
Well, man, I'll talk about the losing skid, and this losing skid to me, it's the ebbs and flows of the season. What I take out of it is they aren't playing bad. When they lost to Ottawa a few weeks ago, when they blew that lead, like they were playing horribly in that game in the last half. Like we talked about it, everyone was talking about how the Leafs are bad and they're gonna fall off again, and just be this horrible team. But man, this losing streak, they're out shooting the teams they're playing. They're outplaying them. It's really hard to be down on them. Things will even out, man. Things have to change. They're going to score more goals than they are in the past few games, and then Freddie will get hot. It's an ebb and flow game. It's just going to happen.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not going to get super down on the losing skid. I mean, it is going to make it so that we're a little bit more into a battle. It might keep the competitive edge up on the team. It might get them a little bit more jump in their step. But where I'm looking at it is a week ago, I might have thought along the lines of you won't see any moves. I changed that tune a little bit. 3 games, okay. If you lose 4 games, okay. But if you get into that 5th game in a shortened season, you might put the paddles on a little bit. And I'm not saying a big move. You're not going to see some big splash. I mean, picks are worth a lot. Think about the pickups that teams do make. You don't do it by subtracting a big piece. That's not what you do right now. You add to the team because you think this team has something to build on. So we've got a lot of assets. We've got a lot of things in the cupboard. I do think that we'll see a move, and I do think that we'll see somebody come in. I do think you'll see that injection more of as a show of strong and good faith from the management to the dressing room to say, hey, boys, listen, we've got this. Let's go. And this little losing streak might maybe make the management want to do this a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think the management's always been thinking this season is one of their best chances to do well in the playoffs, right? This losing streak, you got to remember who they're playing against. The Winnipeg Jets have the current Vezina Trophy winner in net for them. Connor Hellebuyck, to me, he doesn't get talked about enough. Everyone thinks Carey Price is the best goalie in Canada. He literally isn't right now. It's Connor Hellebuyck. He made some saves the other night that were just ridiculous, man. Those shots are going to go in more often than not if they get those chances. So I think the Vancouver games were a bit more of a concern, but at the same time, man, you're not going to win every game. They just swept Edmonton, which is way more of a better team than Vancouver. So, like I said, it's just going to even out. And sometimes, man, you run into a hot goalie like Winnipeg has. He is the best goalie in the league. So it is what it is. You can't, if they were getting outplayed and outshot and just completely embarrassed, that'd be one thing. But this is just kind of,
Okay, listen, I'm not going to get hung up on this losing skid. I'm not. I am going to focus a little bit on what Tim said about Freddie. Forever, for the last 5 years, with Freddie in our net, I'm a Freddie supporter. I'm not a guy that comes in here saying, hey, what the hell, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to be realistic about something. And when you got Freddie Andersen on a long-term contract, like we have for many years now, he was our number one. You have to treat him like our number one. You have to care for him like our number one, because his long-term confidence, that's what it is all about. You're our man. That's not the case right now. I want him in our net because he's playing for a contract. But you know who else is playing for the net and who's putting up good numbers? Is Jack Campbell. And I mean, when he gets healthy, I agree. I think it's going to be very interesting. I don't say, hey, hand him the net. I'm done with Freddie. I'm not. What I'm saying is give Jack Campbell the start that he's supposed to have. And if he keeps putting up the numbers he is putting up, my question to you is, what do you owe it to anybody to not play the goalie that's, first of all, actually under contract next year, if that means anything at all? What it really means to me is what I'm saying is that you don't have to be married to Freddie Andersen now.
I agree. And you have to remember, too, when his contract is up at the end of the season, right? And they can trade for another number one goalie. It's not like there's none of them available. Every year, this year, the goalie carousel over the offseason was crazy how many goalies switched teams. We never really talked about that. But it can happen. And the thing is, too, with Freddie, I think it is, if he doesn't do well in the playoffs, why would you bring him back?
Do you think that there's even any conversation of even if we made it to the Cup final, Wes, do you really think there's a conversation that we're going to be signing a goalie at his age. And I ask you, I think about goalies, and I'm not talking some little examples. I'm talking about goalies that have signed contracts in their 30s for a long-term deal. How has it played out when Martin Brodeur did it? When Roberto Luongo did it? When Jesus, man, like there are goalies through the roof like that. Just those kind of contracts don't pan out. Ryan Miller, like I don't care who you say, like there's number one goalies, and Freddie Andersen is at that time of his career that God bless him, he has to cash in. It's his big time, last big contract. He's going to get it. But please, I just cannot wrap my head around even the thought process that he's not getting anything but a 4 or 5 year deal, because that's what he needs at this stage of his life. But Toronto could not even come close to entertaining that conversation.
I think that's even a stretch to give him that, right? Like you think of today, Jordan Binnington signed a 6-year, $36 million contract. He's 27 and he's won a Stanley Cup. So to me, because of so many circumstances like the flat cap, and like Freddie's age, like I don't think he's going to get that much of a bump. I would be shocked if a team gave him 5 years, because that would take him up to 36 years old. Like, man, that doesn't happen in pro sports anymore unless your name's Tom Brady. Like, you're not playing into your mid 30s at a high level. Like, it's just, it would be a shame on the Leafs if the Leafs even offered him that. Like, and they shouldn't. They should offer him, I would say, max like a 3-year contract. And I wouldn't give him much of a bump because, like, we just can't. Like, there's no more money coming in.
I don't see Freddie Andersen playing in Toronto next year. I just don't see it. I'm not saying it because of past performance or anything. I am just saying that I think it's that time in his career that there's now the crossroads, and that those roads are his numbers are going to be declining. They already are. You can see it. Just look at them, and it's no different than any other goalie at that age. I just think that right now you owe nothing to him. So I think that when Jack Campbell comes back and is healthy, the way that team responds to him, the way that they all work together, and it's nothing against Freddie Andersen at all. I can't say that enough. I'm not bashing him, but I am saying I can see Jack Campbell taking over the net.
I don't know about that one, man. I'm a bit suspect about Jack Campbell when it comes to him being a proven number one goalie. Like, I'm not sure who could take over the net from Freddie. Like, I don't have the answer to that right now. I haven't really looked into who is up for contract or who could be traded, whatever like that, anything about that. But I do agree with you. I think Freddie, this is his last gas as a Toronto Maple Leaf.
How old is Jack Campbell approximately? You don't have to bang on. Like, I mean, he's got to be around 27, 28,
Jack Campbell.
Something like that. Like, while you look that up, I'm going to say what I'm thinking here. Like, Jordan Binnington, St. Louis took, like, they just kind of brought him up out of nowhere, and he ran and won a cup, and then he signs this massive deal. I feel like he's 27 years old. Just saying, he didn't have a proven track record either, given there was a much different circumstance. They were dead last, but whatever.
Well, yeah, like but I do think Binnington is just that perfect age. Like, he's 27. He is in his prime, and he is going to be in his prime for another, I would say, 4 years, right? So you are paying a little bit more on that back end. But if he is the most you're going to pay for a goalie right now, man, I do feel bad in a little bit of a way that these goalies that are just not the $10 million contract, it's gone, man. With a flat cap, they are not going to get that much. Not a chance. Where Jack Campbell, you asked me to look up his age, he's 29 actually. So he's not that much younger than Freddie.
Okay, but there's no long-term contract, and I'm not telling you to go do that. What I am thinking is that right now, he's in a place in his career that he seems to be in a groove, and I think you can ride a really hot wave on Campbell. Like, I'm not trying to hate on Freddie, but let's be serious. These games against Winnipeg, how many times are we saying, what the hell's going on with Hellebuck? How is he saving that puck?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it about Freddie, and it's driving me bonkers, because then they'll come back on we're just all over them. They'll come back up the ice and it's in our net. And we need to see that save. I want to get off my seat again. And he's done it before, but he's not doing it now, and hasn't done it for a little bit. And I'm not hating on him, but if there's somebody else that's willing to do that, then let's see, let's go. I'm not going to have an illusion and say, hey, you know,
But
Campbell and Hutchison. No, like Anderson's a great goaltender.
mhm. I do think on the flip side this year especially, the Leafs have been playing. They're a better team. This is probably one of the best Leaf teams we've seen in a long, long time. So he hasn't needed to have those 10 bell saves, and he hasn't really needed to steal a game this year, in my opinion. Like how many times this year have the Leafs been embarrassingly outplayed and won the game? I don't even think of a game when they were really outplayed besides that one in Ottawa. But like that was half a game.
No, it's fair. I hope you're okay with this. I'm going to kind of jump into a game review here, and I'm going to use this as a little bit of a segue because this is how it starts. All right, so Tuesday, March 9th, Winnipeg at Toronto. We lost 4-3. It was the Freddie Andersen show. Wait, no, it wasn't, and that's what pisses me off. It was the Connor Hellebuck show. He made 36 saves. A number of them were grade A scoring chances. Even though the Leafs scored first and were outplayed, the Jets they outplayed the Jets for the majority of the game. Hellebuck stood his ground and got the Jets the win. The Leafs took only 2 penalties in the game, but allowed the Jets to score on one of theirs. Again, game won by the other goaltender on the other end of the ice.
Mm-hmm. But like, how many times has Freddie needed to win a game for us? Like, I would say he needs to win one of these games against Winnipeg. Like, he just needs to be better than the other guy, at least one of these. But man, this isn't a mediocre goalie in the league. This is the reigning Vezina Trophy winner, right? Like, imagine if they had split that game, that series in Vancouver, we wouldn't be spitting so much fire about this, man. There's not a chance.
No, okay. I know Hellebuck is an awesome goaltender, and I'm not really upset about that. I'm not. Just let's see this. I don't know. I just don't want to make excuses for anyone. I don't want to be saying, hey, like, you know what? Like, even saying how many games has Freddie needed to steal for us? Well, maybe every game that we've said that the other goalie stole for them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when we needed our goalie to shine more.
But I think this is the best part about the Leafs this year, and we said it before. They're going to be favored, or they should be favored, pretty much every game the rest of the regular season. So how can you steal a game when you're favored to win the game?
Well, I just want to see our goalie be the better of the two.
Yeah, like
a lot.
Yeah, a lot, and he has been a lot. The Leafs are first place in the division, man. Like it's not that he hasn't been better, but it's just top of mind right now with us, and where you just see Hellebuck make these amazing saves, and like there was one on Marner that I was shaking my head at, and I couldn't imagine being Marner and seeing that happen to you, But I think it's just the law of averages, man. If the Leafs play this well the rest of the season, they are going to win way more often than not.
No, you're right. I know. Just keep putting on good shifts. I get it. And
Yeah.
when Simmons comes back and is healthy, and when we do have Campbell back and healthy, it gives some options through.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that I really love the Hyman, Engvall, Mikheyev line. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But how about, like, I'm not a massive fan of watching Tavares and Nylander play. They just don't seem to have that it factor.
Yeah, this
that
year
you
they
just
seem
need.
to. Yeah, I would
Like,
be
and
interested
it's
to see
not
Wayne
any.
Simmons with them.
That's where I was going to go. Or what about if you want to have a really solid tight line? What about if you moved Nylander up to play with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, and your next line was Tavares, Hyman, and Simmons?
Mm-hmm. I think,
Could
man.
that? I'm just saying, like, you'd have an extremely hard working Hyman who is just playing
Yep.
lights out.
Yeah, he is. Like he is the glue on whatever line he's on, man. He seems to dig for pucks. He does really well. He had an end-to-end goal against Winnipeg the other night. That was absolutely beautiful.
If Babcock ever got anything right and
Mm-hmm.
ever got anything more right, it was the fact that he praised Hyman when people didn't quite see what he saw. And we see it, because he's only gotten better. And I know that he's up for a contract at the end of the year. And I mean, he's going to be up for a raise, but I mean, he'll make it work in Toronto. This guy's a businessman. He's a smart man. He knows that he'll sell more children's books. He's an author.
Yep.
If you're a Toronto Maple Leaf, it's going to do you better in business. He has his promotion or his his deals with that insurance company. I can't remember. I'm not going to give a plug for them anyway because they got nothing for us. But I'm just saying that this is the place for him. He's blue and white. He's a blue and white boy.
I hope so. I hope that he isn't a casualty of the salary cap. But man, the one thing that we didn't talk about at all. We talked about this whole thing of the goalies and Freddie and all this stuff. The game they lost to Winnipeg, they let in another power play goal against. They need to get their penalty kill like straightened out. That's where they need to improve via the trade. Is they need something to make them better on the penalty kill, because that has cost them more games than Freddie has. Like, no doubt in my mind.
No, you're 100% right. In their last 9 penalty kills, they've allowed 4 goals. God. I mean, that's awful, and it's 4 in the last 3 games. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't do that and expect to be able to win the games. Like, I mean, you're right. You're 100% correct. But then, like, that the whole reciprocal conversation is we want the goalie to be the best penalty killer. But whatever, the whole team has to stay out of the box. Keep your nose clean. You said one great line to me. We were a week early on when we were thinking that it was going to be a struggle.
Yeah, and we went into that Edmonton week. We're like, oh, they'll be lucky to get one win out of this, and we were wrong about that. And we definitely didn't call this Winnipeg slump.
No, I mean, I knew that Winnipeg's going to be a top fighting team for this division, but my God, they're giving the Leafs every inch of effort they got.
And you know what? It's great to see Toronto and Winnipeg play because, during the regular season, 82 games, they only played them twice, right? So you don't really have a feeling for the way they play, and they're not really in the spotlight very often. Like, the division they're in, they don't have too many teams that are gonna get the primetime games against them, right? Like, they're in that Central Division, so they're kind of lost in the shuffle if they're not playing against like Chicago. Like, they'll play when they play Nashville in the playoffs, those are awesome games. And even when they play them in the regular season, it's awesome. And same thing with Dallas. But man, you're not going to turn on the Winnipeg Jets on a Tuesday night and see them playing Dallas on a regular season. Like, it's not going to draw you in, right? But meanwhile, Calgary and Edmonton, they have some history, and they have playoff runs, and they've been to Cup Finals in our lifetime, so we have a little bit more of a draw to track them and care about them.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I don't know, buddy.
Yeah, that's a bit of a rant.
The Leaf game's on right now. Well, it is a bit of a rant. No, I'm sorry. I got distracted. Because I just get distracted. I just do. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The game is on right now, so it is a bit distracting against Winnipeg. But
that's what I got distracted by. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to tell you.
Yeah, it is what it is. And the one thing that we haven't mentioned, and we talked about the trades that Leafs could make. The trade deadline is about a month away. It's a month tomorrow. So I think it's gonna be more tinkering for the Leafs. Like, nothing big is gonna happen. It just can't. Like, why would you change a massive piece on a team that's first place in the division halfway through the season?
No, I think that you're going to see more things along the lines of like complementary pieces. It's no different than when the Leafs, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but last time we really had a great shot, and that's when Sundin was kicking around, like Billy Waters thought that they won the cup when they landed Owen Nolan, and you're getting Ron Francis, and you had Roberts, you had Neuendijk, like you were putting in those pieces. Now, a few of those I said were here for a while, but like Francis wasn't, like Nolan wasn't, like these guys were able to get brought in for not a lot of stuff going out. Like, I mean, the draft picks we can analyze those, but let's not.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Let's not.
Yeah, we'll get into the trade talk a little bit more when the date is a little bit closer. And it's crazy to think, like, a month from now, we'll be 3/4 of the way through the season. Like, we're halfway through the season, and we're going to break that down in another show as well. But man, it is just flying by this whole season.
Like, do people actually want like us to talk about like, oh, they should trade Nylander? Because I hate to break it to anybody, Nylander's not getting a mid-season trade. If that's ever going to happen, that's an off-season deal. Holy smokes! Like, those don't happen.
Yeah, no way, not at all. Especially in this weird season where with the coronavirus and the quarantine and stuff like that, a big trade isn't gonna happen. Speaking of the coronavirus, March 11th, 2020 was the last game of the NHL regular season 1 year ago because of the pandemic, man. It's been 1 year since that happened. Man, what is your biggest NHL or hockey memory of the past year?
That Detroit got completely rooked out of the draft.
Really,
It's
eh?
just awful. It's the first thing that came to my head, but I have no idea why. No, I'll tell you my favorite memory as far as what went down was in the play-in round, Toronto against Columbus. When I can't get the score, but I mean I want to say that the Leafs were maybe down 4-2, 4-1. It was a long way down, and the net was empty, and we needed a bunch of goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember West Coast Tim, like it was pissed off. The Raptors were playing. It was playoff basketball. So he flipped it over because the game was toast. It
Yep.
was done. And it was. The Leafs looked like garbage. But for whatever reason, I remember when I was a kid, I was at a ball game and my dad and I left because, we looked up at the clock. It was 9:02. We could catch the 9:13 train back out of Union. And so we looked at the scoreboard and it's like 7-1. Jays are losing. Game's over. So and my dad's like, why don't we go get the train? We get on the train. We go, and we're on the train. We're almost home. People get on the train and they're hooting and hollering. They came out of a bar. The Jays came back. Huge ninth inning rally. They won 8-7.
Yep.
I heard about it on the train ride home. I left that game. I've never stopped watching a game early. So my biggest memory was that I kept watching. I was with my brother-in-law, and the Leafs scored, and then they
Mm-hmm.
scored again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to get a hold of Tim, and I'm sending messages. Tim, are you watching? And no, there was no response. So I knew he wasn't. And then they scored to tie it. I lost it.
Yeah.
And Tim and I don't normally chat. Like he lives in BC. Like we chat online. Like we don't normally get on the phone. There's not phone folks. But I get on the phone. I'm like, I have to get a hold of him. The phone rings. And he gets on the phone. He's like, Scott, is everything all right? He's like, my phone's going nuts with you here. I went, are you watching the game? He goes, no, man. Like, that's garbage. Why would I watch that?
Yep.
I went, it's tied, man. It's going into overtime. And it was just silence. He goes, what are you talking about, man? Like, I'll never forget it. It was one of the coolest moments. That was my favorite moment in the last year.
Fair enough. I remember that game too because I remember I was driving up to my cottage listening to that game, and the Leafs were playing poorly for a majority of that game, and I was just squeezing the steering wheel and just getting texts from my friends of the Leafs are awful and I'm never cheering for this team again and all that stuff. And I threw my phone away, and then I go look at it again, and people are messaging me, and my one buddy was messaging me so much about this game, and I was like, you're clearly lying. There's no way the Leafs have scored 3 goals and tied it up, and it took my father-in-law calling my partner and pretty much saying yeah, they're going to overtime, and then they won the game. I couldn't believe it, and it was pretty awesome, that experience. But man, the letdown of Game 5 was just heartbreaking too. It's how Leafy is that, come back in a big win, and then they just didn't show up for that last game.
And how awful is it to be a Leaf fan? Like my dad is the epitome of long-time Leaf fan. He's 82 years old. He's followed the Leafs since he came to Canada from Scotland when he was 10 years old. And he, at the end of that game, when they came back, I remember him saying to me, Scott, it doesn't matter to me what they do in the next game now, because that right there, I'll remember that forever. That's good. I'm good. I'm thinking to myself, we are we're so deprived, man.
Yes.
We're taking that as victories.
Yep.
That was a victory. And he meant it. And God bless him. I mean, he doesn't lose sleep over it. Good.
Yep.
I mean, he kind of does.
It's a Toronto sports fan thing, man. We get these great moments, but then the teams don't finish it off and win the whole thing, unless you're the Raptors. And there was a shot a few years ago, that should be a statue in bronze in front of the Scotiabank Arena, because it was the moment of the playoffs. But man, when it comes to my most memorable moment of the this past year, when that play-in started, man, and it was playoff hockey and it felt like playoff hockey, just turning it on and watching it, it just didn't feel the same, man. And like, it's so weird. It was so weird, and took a long time for me to adjust to not getting together to watch playoff hockey. You know, like I do a draft every year, and I had to do it virtually this time, and it was such a weird experience for me as a sports fan that I couldn't have that social um, part of sports, because that's my favorite thing about sports is going to a game, watching the game with people, even at home or at their place or having a few drinks. Like that's why I'm a sports fan, to have these like shared moments. You know, like that game we were talking about when they came back and won. Like it's absolutely a shame that we had to all be separate and experience it, because those are the things you wanted, like high five and jump around and be a proud fan. And like I feel like that was stripped away from us this year for obviously good reasons. But man, I think that feeling of like I'm watching playoff hockey alone, like that is weird. Like it was such a weird feeling, and I hope we don't have to experience that ever again.
That's a great call, man. I mean, I didn't really. Yeah, you're right. Like that is to have the feeling of just high fiving a complete and absolute stranger.
Oh yeah.
To see Maple Leaf Square, and to see everybody, like you say, to see the passion that unites us all
Mm-hmm.
actually taking place. Sports has that ability to happen, and it has that power to be able to invoke a feeling inside of you that you can share with your fellow person beside you. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter who they are, where they're from, where they're going. You can just legitimately get lost in that game. And whether you're watching it live, and even when I'm watching a game on television, like you say, with friends, I catch myself in like a high intense game, in a playoff game. I love the playoff
Mm-hmm.
atmosphere just as much as I love the game. It is part of the package, and it is so missed so dearly, because like I would catch myself in a game, I would be like, I'll say to my girls, guys, listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the
Mm-hmm.
crowd. Listen to what they're chanting. You know what I mean? And I'd get goosebumps because you'd hear 20,000 people appreciating something
Yeah.
and just loving it together and just getting lost in the moment. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait till that happens again.
Oh man, I am dying for that to happen again. And I think that this playoff will obviously be different as well, but hopefully next year everything should be a bit back to normal, and we can get together and watch a game somewhere. Wouldn't that be great, man? We could hang out and watch the game, because like that is, like I said, I miss it the most, of watching. It is not the same, us watching the games at the same time and texting each other like, "Oh, did you see that?" Like, cool, man. Yeah, like, yeah, I did, but like it just isn't anywhere close to it.
More often than not, those messages replied after the moment's done.
That's
You know what I
it,
mean?
right? Yeah, that's
And
it.
because you're already lost in the moment. You know what I mean? You're not lost. Like it's just yeah. Like I like when Batista hit his home run,
Mm-hmm.
did his bat flip. I can remember this moment. Who was in the room with me? The high
Mm-hmm.
fives that were delivered. The crowd went ballistic. The way that the
Yeah.
camera shook because of how loud it went. I mean, man,
Yeah.
can't wait.
When I was
I'm
in Buff,
dreaming now.
yeah, when I was in Buffalo for a Leaf game, and Matthew scored the overtime goal, it was awesome. It was such a shared community experience of, like 15,000 Leaf fans all like standing up and cheering in an opposing arena versus the 5,000 Buffalo fans that had to go home with their tail between their legs and feeling bad about themselves. But we're getting there, man, and like that's enough of what happened this past year. So let's go back further into history, and I dug up this interesting tidbit. 1918. It was the first all NHL Stanley Cup playoff game. Took place when the Toronto Arenas hosted the Montreal Canadiens in their first of their two-game total goal series. Like, how different is that? Number one. But anyways, Toronto defeated the Canadiens 7-3 in front of 4,000 fans at Mutual Street Arena. Like that's kind of cool, eh? Like, that Toronto won the first playoff series.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love that they were pretty much following like a soccer,
Oh,
you know,
aggregate
a
score.
soccer format. Yeah, I love it. Like that's pretty cool. But like, yeah, I'm glad that changed.
Yep.
That's pretty neat though. That's a cool stat, man. And I mean, can you imagine it being at that, like one of those 4,000 fans? Like that's a lot of people if you think about what the population was back then, right? Like that's cool that they caught on right away. Like the Leafs have just been beloved right from the beginning. So have the Habs. I love it. Like I absolutely love a strong fan base. I love the deep roots that are found in our organization. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we miss the most too, like we've been saying. But I think that pretty much wraps up everything we wanted to say tonight. Unless you have anything else you want to get in here before we get going.
No, the only thing I'm going to do some prep for the next show there, Wes, on hockey card collections. So if anybody's got any hockey cards, if you're still listening to the show, cool. Bring up some hockey cards. I've got a Gretzky rookie. I've got a Lemieux rookie. Let's talk about it next show. Thanks for listening, Wes. You can take us home.
All right, sounds good. I'm looking forward to that. I want to learn a little bit about these hockey cards. So if you like what you see and what you hear, like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter @BlueCollarHT, and yeah, like we always say, go Leafs, go.